And someone, surely somewhere, somehow, can recall the time when people didn't lock their doors to strangers in the night time, and we were neighbors' children.
From Focal Point Radio and WEBR in Fairfax, Virginia, this is the Mimi Geerges Show.
But in the age of uncertainty, freedom doesn't set you free, feeling doesn't feel the same, and I think of you and...
Singer-songwriter Tommy Sands. When he was a kid growing up on a farm in Northern Ireland, he was surrounded with music. His father and 6 uncles played the fiddle. His mother played the accordion. His house was a place where Catholics and Protestants got together for singing, dancing, and all-around fun. Now, as an adult, Tommy Sands is a well-known Irish singer and songwriter, as well as a social activist. He's been involved in encouraging the peace talks in his own Northern Ireland, as well as helping young people in an American prison. Tommy has always wanted to use his music to send a message of peace and healing to audiences at home and abroad. Tommy Sands and his daughter Moya join me in the studio. Welcome to you both.
Thank you very much.
Tommy, how did you get started playing music?
Well, as you mentioned, I grew up in a small farm, and there was always music around. Our parents played music, and neighbours came in at night and played. So I suppose my very first memory of the world of music was lying in bed when I had to go to bed early and listening to the sound of my father's fiddle leaking underneath the bedroom door, along with accompanied by the flicker of an oil lamp. And neighbours would come in with black bottles squeaking in their pockets and fiddles under their arms. And even as a child, I thought it more sinful to sleep than to stay awake when those people come in. And so I really grew up with that type of music.
Now, are you formally trained in music? I mean, can you read music?
No, I don't. I don't read music.
So when you write a piece, how do you do that? You just remember it?
Yes. I just do it out of my head, really.
So, Tommy, when did you start writing songs?
Well, I suppose I grew up learning and listening to all the old traditional songs about that my father and mother sang and that neighbours sang about the past, about the joys and sorrows of history. I suppose in many ways Irish history was handed down in music and song and poetry. Irish people never really learned to read or write until the 5th century. So all the prehistory was handed down in poetry and song. And it continued in that way in many ways. So the songs that my father would have sung would have been, even they may have been about the famine or emigration, the potato famine.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very meaningful to the times and the people who wrote them. So when I was growing up, and political problems began, the troubles began again. People were getting killed, and as well as singing songs about pretty fair maids in the month of May, whenever it became June and July and people were getting killed, it is very important to express that in some way or other. Not only for the small little community that I grew up in, but also for myself.
So then you grew up and you went to college. What did you study there?
I studied philosophy and theology, actually, and then I was in the seminary for a while, and I decided to leave, and I had a long walk home. I walked 120 miles because I felt I needed to walk, because up until then I knew what I was going to do, but when I decided to leave, I had no idea. And I was looking at the men working at hay as I walked home, and then just as I came into Newry, which is about 80 miles later, I met a taxi car coming out of it, and it was my family, my brothers and sister. And they rolled down the car. They rolled down the window. They didn't ask me, where are you going or anything. They said, we're going to do a concert in Gormanstown. The troubles have started in Belfast. Bombay Street had been attacked, and many Catholic homes had been burnt, and people had fled to Gormanstown in the south of Ireland, to an army camp there. So the family went up to play there, and they said, "Would you like to come and play? Your guitar's in the back." I said, "Yes." And really, that's...
And you just hopped into the taxi and off you went.
Yes. And
how about
back
that?
up the road I had come down, and in a way, despite all my deliberations and wondering what I was going to do, that's how it happened, and very quickly, and I never stopped playing music since.
And then you started then touring with your family, the group was called the Sands Family.
That's right, yes.
Your brothers and sister.
Yes. We played a lot around home, of course. I suppose the music was beginning to move out of the homes into the local pubs. Central heating was coming, which was my father didn't like the central heating because it meant that it changed life a little bit. People were, before that, sitting around the fire in the one room, and if you had an argument with someone, you couldn't run away to another room because the other room was too cold in the wintertime. So you figured out what the problem was and you solved it there and then. So my father always said that once the central heating came in, people never addressed problems. They ran away from them. And anyway, the music was moved out to the pubs, and we played a lot in the pubs.
And you started touring the world as well.
Yes, there was a competition in Dublin, and the winner was to go to New York. We all got into an Austin A30 car, 5 of us. And
was this the first time you'd left Ireland?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes, we won the competition in Dublin, and the prize was to play in New York.
Okay.
And it was a little bit interplanetary, arriving in New York, and on many levels, people around home. In fact, you have to leave home before you know what you're like. If you stay at home all the time, you don't know what you're like. And people around home are very indirect, I realized after I went to New York. We're very circular about the way we say things. And in fact, in the Irish language, there is no word for yes or no. So, because there are so many colours between yes and no.
Which would be incredibly frustrating to an American.
Absolutely. When we came to America, someone said, "Would you like a cup of tea?" We said, "No, thanks." And we didn't get a cup of tea, which is a major cultural shock. Because usually at home it would be, "Would you like a cup of tea?" "Ah, no, thanks, go ahead." "You sure you wouldn't like a cup of tea?" "Ah, no, I don't want to put you in any trouble." "There's no trouble at all, I'm making a cup of tea anyway." "Ah, well, if you're making a cup of tea anyway, I'll have a cup of tea." And so, in many ways, we learned a lot. Then we played in various places in the United States back in 1971. Played in Carnegie Hall, which is a great experience. And then we went back home, and we were writing songs about what was happening at home. And then we got invited to a festival in East Berlin, the Political Song Festival in 1974. And we played a lot in Eastern Europe many years before the wall came down.
That's Tommy Sands. He's an Irish folk singer and songwriter. Also in the studio with me is his daughter Moya. Tommy, you mentioned the troubles in Northern Ireland. You wrote a song called "There Were Roses." Can you tell us a little bit about the background to that?
It refers to an incident, a set of incidents that happened in the townland where I grew up. As I mentioned, people would come into our house at night. We didn't have electricity, so we didn't have television. So people came to our house for entertainment and music. And the neighbours, we would work with them in the fields during the day, and then they would come to our house very often in the evening to relax and sing and so on. And people came from both sides of the divide.
Catholic and Protestant.
Catholic and Protestant. And I remember one night in the summertime when the roses were out along the hedges on the Ryan Road, and we could hear the explosions in Uri, which is just about 6 miles away, and we could hear the lambeg drum, an instrument very much associated with militant loyalism. It was being played just a few 100 yards away. Someone said, no matter how close the troubles get to us here, it won't change us, because we're friends and we know each other. But 1 year from that day, many things had changed. And what did happen, I tried to put it into a song, because I felt that what did happen summed up war anywhere, where ordinary people like ourselves can get divided up into little groups, be we different religions or different colours or different nations, and told we're different human beings by people who find it useful that we are divided.
a young man, a Protestant, was killed. He was a friend of yours.
Yes. He came to our house, and then I could sing you the song.
Okay.
If you like, Mimi. It tells the story of it. Song for you this evening, it's not to make you sad, not for adding to the sorrows of this troubled northern land. But lately I've been thinking, and it just won't leave my mind, to tell you of two friends one time who were both good friends of mine. Alan Bell from Benach, he lived just across the fields, a great man for the music and the dancing and the reels. O'Malley came from South Armagh to court young Alice Fair, and we'd often meet on the Ryan Road, and the laughter filled the air. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. Alan, he was Protestant, and Sean was Catholic born. It never made a difference, for the friendship it was strong. And sometimes in the evening, when we heard the sound of drums, we said it won't divide us, we will always be the one. For the ground our fathers ploughed in, the soil it is the same, and the places where we say our prayers have just got different names. We talked about the friends who died, and we hoped there'd be no more. It's little then we realized the tragedy in store. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. It was on a Sunday morning when the awful news came round. Another killing has been done just outside Newry town. We knew that Alan danced up there, we knew he liked the band, but when we heard that he was dead, we just could not understand. We gathered at the graveside on that cold and rainy day, and the minister, he closed his eyes and he prayed for no revenge. And all the ones who knew him from along the Ryan Road, we bowed our heads and we said a prayer for the resting of his soul. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. While fear had filled the countryside, there was fear in every home, when the car of death came ploughing round the lonely Ryan Road. A Catholic would be killed tonight to even up the score. Oh Christ, it's young O'Malley that they're taking from the door. Alan was my friend, he cried, he begged them with his fear, but centuries of hatred, of ears that cannot hear, an eye for an eye was all that filled their mind, and another eye for another eye, till everyone is blind. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. So my song for you this evening, it's not to make you sad, not for adding to the sorrows of this troubled northern land. But lately I've been thinking, and it just won't leave my mind, to tell you of two friends one time who were both good friends of mine. I don't know where the moral is, or where the song should end, but I wonder just how many wars are fought between good friends, and those that give the orders are not the ones to die. It's Bell and O'Malley and the likes of you and I. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. There were roses, roses, there were roses.
That was Tommy Sands singing There Were Roses from his CD called Singing of the Times. Tell us about why you wrote that song.
Well, I wrote it very much for my own small community. We couldn't find words to describe or express our feelings at that time. Nobody knew what to say. And I suppose sometimes words on their own can reach long journeys, but words on the wings of music can seep deeper and soar higher very often and express hurt and pain inside much better. And it goes back, the tradition of expressing oneself through music in Ireland is very important. It goes back a long time. During sad times, when someone died and there was a wake, or maybe someone was getting married and there was a wedding, sometimes that is sad too, because the young girl was leaving the family and going away.
Right.
But during these times, crying women would be sent for. They were called keeners. And their job was to come to the house of sadness, start to cry, get everybody in the house crying, and then move on to the next house. A good job, well done. But their role in their role in the community was very important because they actually helped people to cry. Mm-hmm. And musicians did this too. And I went round with my father as a child. He played the fiddle, and he would go to a funeral or a wake, play a slow, sad lament, and the people would cry. And
well, I'd like to hear one, actually, one of these famous Irish laments. Moya, I want you to please explain to us the instruments that you and your father are going to be using.
Yep, they're called tin whistles or penny whistles. They're just like a tube of tin with 6 holes in it and a mouthpiece. It's pretty simple, really.
It looks very simple. I mean, it's just got a mouthpiece and it's a tube. There's nothing inside of it, and there's just these holes on top. So I'm interested in let's hear what it sounds like.
Right. Well, if there's any worries in your head, these sad songs were never meant to make you sad. They were meant to soak up the sadness and take it away and leave enough space for the dance of life to come in. So if there's any worries in your head today, if you listen to this music, it'll take it all away.
Irish singer and songwriter Tommy Sands and his daughter Moya are in the studio with me. You're listening to the Mimi Geerges Show. We're on the web at mgshow.org.
Tommy, you, during the peace talks in Northern Ireland, you had gotten a group of children together to perform right there at the building that the talks were going on. Describe what happened.
Well, the week of the Good Friday Agreement, it is a very traumatic week. It had been a long journey to get there, because I suppose we were trying to find a way past a seemingly impossible situation. you had some people who wanted to be Irish, you had all the people who wanted to be British, and to find a middle ground somewhere there was very difficult. And I think maybe the template that we have come up with, it may be very useful for all the places, emerging countries, especially in the old Soviet bloc.
And so during these talks then, why did you feel like you had to bring your music in?
Well, the politicians were very nervous. They were worried not about their opponents, but about their supporters. And for years it was like watching two buses meeting on a narrow bridge, and neither driver wanted to give way because he didn't want to let down his passengers.
Right.
And it was only when the passengers got up and went to the driver and said, look, it's all right, you can go back a little bit, because we all want to go forward. And it was only then that the political landscape began to change. And we went up, and the politicians were in the talks. And the thing is, the television, as soon as they were talking, the television news is looking for new news. And television can't handle peace very well, because if you put a cam C in a blue sky on the screen and hold that shot for 5 seconds, people are going to be searching for storms with the remote controls. And so
you wanted to create a storm.
Exactly.
Okay. So
and
what did you do?
We went up, and I got permission from George Mitchell to go in there. George Mitchell is the American man who's chairing the talks. And I gathered up 20 Catholic children and 20 Protestant children. And I also got a friend of mine who is a lambeg drummer. And the lambeg drum being very much a symbol of loyalism, of militant unionism. It was a drum, it's a very, very large drum. You know, the Orange Order would play these lambeg drums. People would say it was to scare Catholics, because it's very, very loud. Very loud. You couldn't play it in this room. Windows would break.
Wow.
It's really loud. And when the politicians heard us singing, they actually left the talks and came out to sing with us.
And what was the song that you were singing?
This is a song, it's a song called Down by the Lagan Side. The River Lagan runs through Belfast. And that's what it's about. Would you play the fiddle, Moya?
So we'll have Tommy on the guitar, and Moya's got her Irish fiddle out.
I thought she was a vision that stopped me with her smile. Down by the river we walked along in style. She said, you're welcome back again, won't you stay a while? Down by the Lagan side. And when we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. And when we love, we'll love forever. Down by the Lagan side. I said, who owns that music that's so full of joy and pain, that the pipers and the harpers and the lambeg drummers play? She said, who owns the teardrops falling in the rain, down by the Lagan side? And when we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. And when we love, we'll love forever. Down by the Lagan side.
That's Tommy Sands, Irish singer, songwriter, and peace activist, performing Down by the Lagan side. His daughter Moya was playing the Irish fiddle. Moya, did you have a favorite song that your father used to sing to you as a child?
He actually wrote a song about me. Well, he says it's about me. I don't believe it. from when I was very little, called "Moya is my darling." That part I believe.
Okay, Tommy, let's hear it.
Oh, it's true, all right, and more than true. Moya is me darling, me darling, me darling. Moya is me darling, a good wee girl is she. She wakes me up at 7, 7, 7. She wakes me up at 7, and dances on my head. Then is my breakfast ready, ready, ready? Is my breakfast ready? I want my breakfast now. My porridge is too burny, burny, burny. My porridge is too burny. Well, let us sit a while, for God's sake. Now it is as cold as ice. It isn't nice, it's cold as ice. Now it is as cold as ice. Well, I'm going back to bed. Then I'm going to make me own, on me own, I'll make me own. Then I'm going to make me own. Well, don't burn down the house. Why, Moya is me darling, me darling, me darling. Moya is me darling. A good wee girl is she.
Tommy Sands singing Moya is my darling from his CD called Down by Bendy's Lane. Talk about the project that you did with prisoners in Reno, Nevada.
Well, I was playing in St. Louis, Missouri one night, and this young blonde woman came up to me and she says, would you like to come to Reno with me? I says, that's an interesting offer. And it turned out her name is Jill Berryman, who is the director of the Sierra Arts Foundation in Reno. And she felt that because my songs came from a background of conflict, that they may have some relevance or influence or impact amongst the gangland prisoners in Reno. And I went there and I started to sing songs and tell them stories, but after a while I realized they had incredible stories to tell themselves of their own life. And I thought they would make fantastic songs. And I was lucky enough to meet with one of the judges, a woman called Frances Doherty, whose mother came from Belfast and his father came from Donegal. And I said, Frances, if I can get these young prisoners to write a song about their own life, will you accept it as a plea in their defence? And Frances understood the importance of music, how it can express a hurt and a hatred that very often normal communication can't express.
You can listen to the complete show with Irish singer-songwriter and social activist Tommy Sands and his daughter Moya on our website. It's www.mgshow.org. We're on social media. You can like us on Facebook, and you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Mimi Geerges. It's MIMIGEERGES. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again soon.